One thing that's always been true about New York is that if you build it, people will come. These are the very words of Dan Doctoroff, the man behind the Hudson Yards, and it seems like he's regretting his statement. Hudson Yards is a 28-acre real estate development in West Manhattan and officially the most expensive neighborhood in New York. Here you can get a haircut for $800 and a duplex high-rise for $32 million. A true playground for the ultra-rich. Developers spent nearly $25 billion on Hudson Yards only for it to get heavily rejected by the public. The pandemic left the ambitious venture in a crippling situation as hundreds of condos remain unsold, and its shopping malls and high-end restaurants deserted. When Hudson Yards opened in 2019, it promised to transform Manhattan's far west side with sleek office towers, luxury condos, and elaborate retail options. The site suspended above 30 functioning train tracks, all swept under its impressive display of towers, art houses, and the main attraction, the Vessel. This 150-foot sculpture was designed by Thomas Heatherwick and assumes a honeycomb shape. However, the design doesn't sit well with most, and it's being compared to a waste paper basket. The first phase of Hudson Yards opened in 2019 with 8 structures encompassing residences, a hotel, office buildings, a mall, and a cultural facility. Plans for Phase 2 have been released that show a total of 3 towers, including an 80-story residential tower and a 74-story office tower with a school on the ground level, while the third one would be a casino. Related companies and Oxford Properties are the primary developers of Hudson Yards. The project was financed through a combination of debt and equity, with a significant portion of the financing coming from the developers themselves. While the current situation of the Hudson Yards is interesting, it can't be more interesting than its history. In the 1950s, there was a suggestion to create a Freedom Tower, a 1,750-foot structure which would have been the tallest building in the world at the time. In the 1980s, both the Jets and Yankees proposed new stadiums above the rails, though none of these projects succeeded. Another unsuccessful plan for a new stadium for the Yankees was proposed above the West Side Yards in 1993. Fast forward to the early 2000s, the rail yard site was proposed to be transformed into a new stadium for hosting the 2012 Olympics. Proposers dubbed the structure the New York Sports and Convention Center. In addition to the stadium, rezoning the adjacent area would have incentivized the construction of some 13,000 new residential units and 28 million square feet of office space. But those plans fell through when London won the bid for hosting the 2012 Olympics. Without missing a beat, public officials and private investors began developing the new Hudson Yards plan. Construction began in 2012 with a groundbreaking on March 15, 2019. The development heavily benefited from $6 billion in public subsidies, and its special zoning further incentivized the building of large buildings. Hudson Yards was conceived by the administration of Michael Bloomberg and built by Stephen Ross, the chairman and owner of related companies. It was the largest private development in American history and a pledge to rebuild New York after the deadly 9/11 attacks. But for some reason, it wasn't for everyone. Mayor Bloomberg famously said, "If we could get every billionaire around the world to move here, it'd be a godsend." Apparently, he thought if more wealthy folks moved to New York and paid their taxes, it'd be a huge uplift to the economy. His wishes did come true, as New York now hosts the headquarters of many established corporations like J.P. Morgan, Pepsi, American Express, etc. But this also led developers to overproduce office towers and luxury buildings, something you can confirm by seeing the aerial shot of the city. New York City has an abundance of unused office spaces and premium residences, but at a critical lack of affordable housing. Rents in New York have become some of the most affordable in the world. People with subsidized housing vouchers often have nowhere to go to use them. Leaders have neglected its infrastructure and its public realm for so long that its basic systems like the subway, the streetscape, and subsidized housing are breaking down. Income inequality has reached levels not seen since the 1920s. So it's almost understandable as to why the public remains unimpressed by Hudson Yards. The eastern portion of the site, developed as Phase 1, sits between 10th and 11th Avenues. One of the first structures to be completed in this phase was 10 Hudson Yards, a 52-story tower. Since it's not built directly above the rail yard, its construction was smooth and timely. It's 895 feet tall and designed by acclaimed architect Kohn Pedersen. Completed in 2016, the tower was successful in attracting top brands like L'Oreal, Sidewalk Labs, Guardian, and much more. We then moved towards 15 and 35 Hudson Yards, both residential towers that are proven to be a nightmare for their developers. Priced slightly lower than 35 Hudson, 15 Yards originally fared better and is about 90% sold after almost 7 years of marketing. Still, some 15 Hudson homeowners are listing their units for less than they paid as they look to resell in a shifting market. This 88-story tower was particularly popular with foreign buyers, especially from Asia, thanks to marketing and trade shows conducted by Related Abroad. The situation at 35 Hudson Yards is much worse, as roughly 50% of units are unsold more than 4 years after sales launched. In a desperate attempt to salvage the project, the owners are giving flashy discounts. The units that do sell are going for 30% less than the original prices filed by the AG's office, and active listings were discounted by nearly 50%. 4 large units recently sold for more than 40% off. According to the Wall Street Journal, more than $1 billion worth of condos remain unsold at 15 and 35 Hudson Yards. Those who were willing to buy them weren't particularly happy either. In 2021, prospective low-income tenants of the building filed a lawsuit against Related. The suit alleges that the company created a different address for 15 Hudson Yards affordable units and that they don't have access to the same amenities as those in the market rate units. While there's not an actual pour door, the tower does segregate its units through a poor address and poor floors. 15 Hudson Yards is attached to The Shed, which is a visual and cultural center. Its design features a 120-foot tall retractable shell that wraps around its roof and its northern and southern facades. It includes 2 levels of gallery space, a 500-seat theater, a rehearsal space, a lab for local artists, and a skylift event space. You can watch as its shell crawls forward to create a space for hosting large-scale performances. Phase 1 also includes a 7-story mall called the Shops and Restaurants in Hudson Yards. If you have a better name for this mall, let us know in the comments. The mall's anchored by Dior and Chanel on the topmost floor, while the 5th to 7th floors feature fine dining options. Neiman Marcus was designed to become the anchor tenant, with his stores occupying a quarter of the mall. Disaster struck when Neiman Marcus went bankrupt and was forced to vacate after only being open for 16 months. Its former space is slated to be converted into an office area. Furthermore, we have another tower called the 30 Hudson Yards, which holds the title of being the 6th highest building in New York. It has a rectangular observation deck known as the Edge. Located on the 100th floor, the Edge includes a bar and event space. The deck is at a height of 1,100 feet, making it the world's 2nd highest outdoor observation platform with transparent flooring. Other similar towers include the 50 and 55 Hudson Yards. This brings us to the main attraction of this town, the Vessel. It stands at the center of the 6-acre public plaza, complete with 28,000 plants and 225 trees. It's sort of a ventilation space for the West Side Yards, as well as a stormwater runoff site. The plaza sits directly on top of an active rail yard supported by 234 caissons. The Vessel has 16 stories that consist of 154 flights of interconnected stairs. It consumed an estimated $200 million for its construction and quickly became popular because of its unconventional design. Although not everyone was appreciative of the vision behind the Vessel, still hundreds of people flocked to see it at its opening and take selfies with the giant. In January 2021, the Vessel was closed after 3 people jumped off it, all within 15 months. It reopened again with additional safety measures like added security and staff, but that just wasn't enough. 2 months after its reopening, a 4th incident happened, leading it to be closed once again. The Hudson Yards Phase 2 will have a small percentage dedicated to affordable housing. There's no completion date stated for the second phase, but it's expected to take at least 5 years for completion. Do you think the Hudson Yards is a useless project? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Each video takes a lot of hard work to complete, so make sure you like and subscribe to Visionary Builds. We're committed to releasing 2 videos every week, so your support means a lot.